You're at a party, surrounded by dozens of people. Everyone's laughing, talking, having what looks like the time of their lives. And you? You feel like you're watching through glass, completely invisible, more alone than if you were sitting in your apartment by yourself. We've been told our whole lives that loneliness means being physically alone, that if you're around people, especially people you know, you shouldn't feel lonely, so when you do feel that crushing isolation in a crowded room, you think something's wrong with you. But what if I told you that the loneliest people are often the ones surrounded by the most people? What if the cure for loneliness has nothing to do with how many friends you have or how busy your social calendar is? I spent years thinking I was broken because I'd feel this weird emptiness, even when I was with my closest friends. I'd force myself to go to more events, say yes to every invitation, thinking quantity would fix the quality problem. Spoiler alert, it didn't. The truth about loneliness is way more brutal and way more fixable than anyone wants to admit. And once you see what's really happening, you can't unsee it. But first, you need to understand that what you're feeling isn't pathetic or weird. It's actually your brain trying to tell you something important. Why being social isn't connection. Let me paint you a picture of modern loneliness because it's not what you think. It's not the guy eating dinner alone at a restaurant. That guy might be perfectly content. It's the person who has 500 Instagram followers, a packed weekend schedule, and still feels fundamentally misunderstood by everyone around them. This is what I call performative connection. You show up, you play your role, you laugh at the right times, you ask the right questions. But underneath, there's this nagging feeling that nobody really knows you. That if you stripped away the social scripts and just showed up as your actual self, they'd all scatter. You're probably right, because most people are doing the exact same thing. Everyone's performing their socially acceptable version while their real thoughts, fears, and desires stay locked away. So you end up with rooms full of people desperately wanting real connection, but everyone's too scared to be the first one to drop the mask. The data backs this up too. Studies show that despite being more connected than ever, rates of loneliness have tripled in the last decade. We have more ways to communicate and fewer meaningful conversations. More friends and less intimacy. More social events and less vulnerability. But society keeps pushing the same tired solution. Just get out there more, join clubs, be social. It's like telling someone who's drowning to just swim harder. The hidden brain, triggers of loneliness. Your nervous system has this thing called neuroception. It's constantly scanning for safety and connection. Not just physical safety, but emotional safety. The safety to be yourself without judgment. When you're around people but can't be authentic, your brain registers this as a threat. You're physically present but emotionally isolated, which triggers the same stress response as actual danger. That's why loneliness literally hurts. Your brain processes it the same way it processes physical pain. Most of us have been trained to hide our complexity. We think connection means being likable, so we smooth out our rough edges, hide our weird thoughts, and present this sanitized version of ourselves. Then we wonder why our relationships feel shallow. There's also what psychologists call the spotlight effect. We massively overestimate how much others are judging us. Meanwhile, they're so busy managing their own performance anxiety that they're barely noticing our flaws. Everyone's in their own head, worried about how they're coming across. And social media has made this worse. We compare our inner experience to everyone else's highlight reel. We see people who look like they have it all figured out and assume we're the only ones struggling with this stuff. But trust me, behind most of those perfect posts are people feeling just as disconnected as you are. The moment I finally felt seen, I remember the exact moment this clicked for me. I was at my college roommate's wedding. It should have been this amazing celebration, right? I knew everyone there, had history with these people. But I spent the whole night feeling like an outsider watching someone else's life. I kept thinking, what's wrong with me? These are my people. I should feel happy and connected. Instead, I felt like I was performing happiness while this hollow feeling ate away at my chest. I went home that night convinced I was just fundamentally broken at relationships. But then something happened a few months later. I was having coffee with a friend I hadn't seen in years. And instead of doing the usual catching up small talk, I just broke. Started talking about how lost I felt, how scared I was about my future, how I sometimes felt like I was just pretending to be an adult. I expected him to get uncomfortable and change the subject. Instead, he looked relieved and said, "Dude, I thought I was the only one." We ended up talking for 4 hours about all the stuff we never talk about. The fear, the uncertainty, the weird thoughts we have at 3 a.m. That conversation felt more connecting than a year's worth of surface-level hangouts. And that's when I realized the problem wasn't that I was around the wrong people or not social enough. The problem was that I was afraid to be real with people, so I was starving for genuine connection while surrounded by opportunities for it. Fixing loneliness without more friends. So how do you fix this? First, stop trying to be universally likable. I know that sounds scary, but think about it. The people you feel most connected to are probably the ones who show you their flaws, right? Who share their weird thoughts and unpopular opinions. Authenticity is magnetic, even when it's messy. Start small. Next time someone asks, "How are you?" and you're not actually fine, try saying, "Honestly, kind of struggling with some stuff." Most people will just politely nod and move on, but some will lean in. Those are your people. Second, practice what I call strategic vulnerability. This doesn't mean trauma dumping on strangers. It means gradually sharing more of your real thoughts and feelings with people you trust. Share something you're excited about that others might think is weird. Admit when you don't know something. Talk about your actual problems, not just your successes. Third, create space for others to be real too. Ask follow-up questions. When someone shares something personal, don't immediately pivot to your own story or try to fix their problem. Just say, "That sounds really hard," or "Tell me more about that." Most people are desperate for someone to actually listen. And here's a big one. Curate your social life around quality, not quantity. It's better to have 3 friends who know the real you than 30 who only know your public persona. Stop saying yes to every social event and start being intentional about who you spend time with. Real connection starts with this risk. Look, loneliness in a crowd isn't a personal failing. It's a symptom of how we've been taught to connect. We've confused networking with friendship, small talk with intimacy, being liked with being known. The cure isn't more people or more events. It's the courage to show up as yourself and the wisdom to invest in relationships that can handle your complexity. Because here's what nobody tells you. Everyone feels weird and uncertain sometimes. Everyone has thoughts they're afraid to share. Everyone's just figuring it out as they go. The difference between people who feel connected and people who feel lonely isn't their social skills or how many friends they have. It's their willingness to risk being disliked in order to be genuinely known. So here's your homework. And I actually want you to do this. Not just think about it. Think of one person in your life who you trust. Someone who's shown you kindness or understanding before. The next time you talk to them, share one real thing. Not a major trauma or deep dark secret, just something authentic about how you're actually doing. It might feel awkward at first. You might worry they'll think you're being too intense or negative. But I promise you, in a world full of surface-level interactions, authenticity stands out. And you might be surprised by how much they appreciate you being real with them. Drop a comment and tell me, what's one thing you wish you could share with people but hold back? Let's practice being real right here. And if this helped you feel less alone, share it with someone who needs to hear it too.